Hello and welcome to episode number 290 of the Armen Show Podcast. This one is called Continual Branching, the Many Ways to Reach Outward. And this one is a solo episode. I will be discussing with all of you about a few ways to branch out in your life. I've talked about this a couple of times, and it would be valuable to see if I can give a few examples of branching out and things you can do differently to keep things a bit more interesting in your existence. It is nearing the end of 2020. If you're not subscribed, that's all right. You might want to. And whatever it is that helps the channel and other content go. So now, branching out. What is that? This could be in categories including you drive in new locations to places you want to go, new music in your categories that you already listen to, new music in categories you don't listen to already, locations, going to different neighborhoods, walking in different neighborhoods, visiting other places. Obviously, people have talked about travel for long periods of human history. That can be beneficial. It's even more beneficial if you plan it out beforehand. Think about what you want to take from that travel. I feel like you can get more from a small travel that you plan out and want to take value from than from a far away travel that you just do without thinking, because that's not the same. It's slightly different. You might have great experiences, but when you plan out, okay, I want to go here, I want to speak to this person, I want to take this kind of risk, then it changes the pathway you're taking. Not bad. And that can be a more local travel of sorts. Had to cough there. And that'll be included in the episode because we keep it real. I don't have enough coughs on this show. And people are saying, hey, can you include more coughs in the episodes? Sure thing. And I'm always listening to the listeners. Never forget the listeners. If you want to sneeze, I'll even try that too. No, it didn't work out, though we tried our best. Branching out in some form keeps life vibrant, because if it's not fun in some form, it doesn't matter how far you get. It's not great. You want it to still be fun. As long as it's still fun, you'll find ways to do great things in this life. If you cut out the things that are fun or progress on a path that matters to you, it won't matter if you have everything else, because it's just a few things that each of us seek out. Some of us like things like freedom or ability to create, or it could be a stable set of connections. There's different things that each person is looking for. And so if you ignore those things that are the main things to you, well then it's going to be a bit difficult to fill that void with anything else. That was a tangent. Now back to, tangents are good, by the way, and a lot of podcasters and speakers do tangents. They make life more interesting than if it was just linear, boom, bam, boom. We don't always want everything to be linear, and that's not really how my mind works. Back to the branching. So one example of this is music. Let's say you listen to groups A, B, C, and D. You could be finding new music from groups A, B, C, and D. And today's services for music finding are wonderful. Too good, almost. So they are worth reaching out into and finding new music in those, for those individuals. You could also branch out to groups E, F, G, and H that you don't even know about based on recommendations, or this is a similar artist. And you'll find some things that you like, and they will be new. They don't even have to be currently new. They can be 10 years old, but they are new to you. And some will actually be new. So you'll be once again with the current moment as opposed to 3 years past. Music is one definite category. Language is another one. So Hola, yo soy Armen. Je m'appelle Armen. And other forms. Watching videos in a different language with subtitles in your language could be a great way to start listening in. See what people are saying. If it's a category of your interest, I like science. So if I watch a science video with subtitles, but the speaker is in French, it's not going to be so different from a person speaking in English because it's still science. And you can get the main points. It can't be that different. Biology and chemistry and physics are the same across the planet. The amount of research or the universities might be a little different, but the base is still the same. So you can branch out, but still connect it to what you do. That's how it's a branch versus you jumped from your tree to a different tree, which I'm not pushing against, but the branch effect is quite pleasant, very pleasant. That's two categories. Neighborhoods, I've mentioned before, walking in different neighborhoods. I am fond of that. You get a sense of what another group of people lives like on a regular basis. See the trees and the houses or homes or the yards, the open areas, the buildings, the not open areas. And it's something nice. And you get that feeling like you're starting again. You want to always have that feeling like you're starting again, kind of like how Jeff Bezos of Amazon says it's day one. Every day is day one. That's his philosophy for how his company reaches forward. We started again. We're not like a big company that's bloated. We are a startup that's working towards our goals. Long live startups. And long live, by the way, all these books in the background that I include here, there. This is not a virtual background. And those are real books. And have I spoken to some of these authors? Yes, no, yes, and may return on the panel. Yes in text. No, I have not spoken to Cal Newport, Carl Zimmer, yes, and Jeffrey West recently was on the show about scale. And is that one upside down? No, they just look inverted in the video. But some great books there and some other great new books as well. Talk about branching out. Yancey Strickler's book, This Could Be Our Future. Yancey Strickler. And he may be on the show later on. Branching out in books, obviously, is a great category if you like books. There's different kinds of media, podcasts, whatever it is. Bringing variety in some form can be, I believe, the difference that makes your week cool versus dull. The difference is that it's as different as my voice thing like this versus going up really high and then going a little bit lower. Switching it up like that really picks up people's attention. I saw a guy who said that basically this can grab a lot of attention when you speak this way. So I guess I might do a little bit of that switching up the voice just to grab a little bit more attention. What? Yes, we are in the future, 2020. Soon to be 2021, the shift is quick. It's almost like I could do updates weekly, similar to a person I may check with to be on the show later on. He's a realtor in Northern California and does updates on the real estate market regularly. And that's all he updates on, the percent of homes sold and whatnot. Could he use branching out in some form? Well, I wouldn't impose branching out on anybody. That's a key point. I recommend it for someone who's looking for spice or liveliness or thinks that new things could give their life that excitement. Let's say the person who has an average time then goes to a piano concert, and that's the main fun part of their month. You can sort of give yourself a piano concert without going to the piano concert. That's what I'm trying to say. So, I mean, it's not to say not to go to the piano concert. That could be that is variation. You don't do that normally, and then boom, you go watch an orchestra and play piano of certain music that you know of or don't know of. That's pretty cool. branching out in some forms. If I was more of a linear person, I wouldn't have as much interest in branching out. So this is slightly biased based on my personality and what I value. But we have to represent for ourselves. So I mentioned books. There's research papers, but very few people read research papers. What about websites or applications? Someone could go look on their phone, search the apps in the App Store, and try out a couple of different ones. Maybe a monthly budget app. That could be the thing that changes up your spending habits. Or you could try one of the music apps to find new music. There's a few options to branch out in these categories. You could try an app that helps you learn a language by practicing it. And you could go down the list. There's some social networking apps that many people have, so those would not be much of a surprise to most individuals. But definitely one or two you would run across would be a surprise. Oh, they have something for this? Purchasing this kind of product? Or maybe a health app that tracks your walking steps. Some people track a lot of their walking steps. And there's competitions like, we have to get 10,000 steps. And they got 8,000. There's a straight competition right there. Who's going to win? The person with the most steps for health purposes. Long live health. By the way, the next episode, I have an individual who does healthcare, and he speaks about virtual reality and its usage in healthcare. That'll be coming on the next episode. This month and closeout of 2020 definitely has some wonderful episodes set in plans and nice things for all of you to take in before we get to 2021, which is more likely to include panels as well, or multi-guest episodes. So that'll be more interesting. That's a point of variation for all of you. And I see it as being great for a few purposes. One, it'll be interesting. Multiple people, triangulation of thoughts. Two, more perspective. If it's just me and a guest, it's great. But me, a guest, and a guest, there can really be some great feedback. Because maybe there's stuff I leave out, but there's nobody to give the feedback on that person that would. But now there'll be another person, so some follow-up. I like the mixing in a group dynamic, but we can't be too large of a group. If I had an episode with 44 people, that's a problem, because by the time we have set up and mentioned everybody, the time is up. And so that was the end of the show. That's why they don't do 44-person panels, in case you were wondering. Solve that riddle. It has been solved. But 2, 3, total of 3 or 4 people, that is worthwhile and something to look at. Kind of like they have on talk shows. Wait a minute, is this one of those? Yes, in some form. I hope you have all been liking it in the form of a talk show. I have been noticing a couple or few people who I know of who were not as creatively outputting for many years. Now, in the past year or two, they are really making an effort to put out things creatively. So it's nice to see that, because I could tell for many years that they were making little comments that spoke to their creative interests, but not directly. And all I could do is be a good influence by doing my thing. If you do your thing, you're a great influence. You don't have to say too much. Your material speaks for itself, and other people can join in whenever the time is right for them. Which could be whenever. We don't know. I'm not sure. But whenever that is, welcome people aboard. Whatever their pace was. Always let people go at their own pace. If you try to push people beyond their own pace, you will get resistance. And if you try to slow them down, why would you do that? That's unbelievable. We don't do that here on the Armen Show, which is a collaborative effort. Nearing, actually, we're in the 290 episodes region. So somewhere in 2021, We're just flying right through episode 300. That's happening. I'll do more updates that have the current moment included, because when I'm always talking about a thing, I never include the current moment, and then so you as the viewer or listener feel disconnected. But if I'm always talking about what happened recently and what's happening now and what's happening in the near future, then you have a path, a part of the story in your thoughts, and you can follow along. That's a real opportunity. If I don't give you that opportunity, it's not the same. You feel disconnected as a person. So back to branching out, which I want to add in a couple more there. Books, we talked about. Music. What's another example? Maybe colors. If you use a note-taking application, using different colors, green, blue, yellow, whatever it might be, red, instead of just black or gray or white text or whatever text you use on the background. Switching it up with colors and bold and quotes and italics and some different sizes of fonts or different fonts even. That could make life super interesting. And it's already built in there. So that's nifty. Or share it with somebody. Get their feedback and add their feedback to your journal. Or if you write articles online, taking their feedback, including it as a quote in your article. There's so much that can be added for variety purposes in this life. So if you do just a little bit, well, it could make your day or week great. It could be that piano concert. You can make the piano concert. And I would like to add in one last example of branching. In the physical aspect domain, it doesn't have to be like you play a different sport, but if you, let's say, walk a certain way, you could try walking up a trail and then part of it walking backwards. Or if you always do a stretch from one side to the other, try it from this side to that way. Or hold up, lift up weights differently. A little bit of switching it up, or like Arnold Schwarzenegger would call it, muscle confusion. You have to confuse the muscle. Okay, the muscle is so confused it doesn't know where to go. If you do a little bit of that, well then, you could feel cool. Maybe you'd find out, oh, one side was imbalanced because you ignored the other side, and you've left it alone. Or your brain has difficulty writing with your left hand. Trying that. These things don't have to be done every day, but once in a while adding a little bit of switch, well, suddenly life's fun. That's the theme of this one. One last point I want to add in on this episode, unrelated to branching out, is that this is a slightly different point, but do all you can while you can, because at some point you can't, and then it's not your choice. So when you're able to do things, if I'm already going to do an episode and I'm already set up and dressed for, I'm going to be set up and dressed for that, I might as well do another one same time using that momentum while I can, because to try and do that later or not do it until, oh, I can do it later or fit it in a moment, maybe that moment doesn't arrive, and that's it. Some things in your past, maybe 5 years ago, 2 years ago, 10 years ago, you thought, not a big deal, I'll leave it for a little bit later. Never occurred, disappeared, and you left that whole category. Probably not the things you were most interested in, but some things maybe you were half interested in, and they're gone, and you don't have anything to showcase for it, except maybe just the memory. But not really, because you didn't make that thing. Wonderful. Cool. I will leave it there. This has been episode number 290 of the Armen Show Podcast. Look out for some great episodes coming up this month with guests, doctor, some professors, and a couple other potential guests to close out 2020 as we roll healthily, ideally, into 2021, which could have a real positive upswing after the first few months. The virus is still running rampant throughout our lands, but possibly from March, April, towards the summer, 2021 could really start to be a real boom. I'll leave it there. Enjoy, and I'll see you guys on the next one.